Let's look at the Peblo and Proxima demo now. I'm going to log in into the Proxima sandbox environment. Here we have two users, two personas. One, Bob, is a regional manager. He's an IO-powered user. He has access to a lot more documents and he's more privileged. There is another user called Alice, and she's a lower-powered user with less documents. Let's now enter the system as Bob. And in this case, Bob also acts as an administrator of Proxima, again powered by Peblo, and Bob also acts as the governance lead. Let's quickly look at the governance pages here. As you enter the admin screen, you enter the governance, security and governance dashboard. Here you see all the documents that got ingested through various sources. And this is again powered by Peblo, where it gets to see all the documents through the ingestion pipelines, and it can host multiple applications. In this case, it's hosting one application, which is Proxima. And it also tracks all the users and the retrievals those users make. It shows the top documents with more sensitive information, and it has broadly looks at and gives a bird's eye view of all the different content from a topics point of view, all that came in through different data sources, like in this case, GitHub, SharePoint, and many others. You can look at a drill down view of each of these data loaders. Again, we will come back and drill down further, but this is the sort of the capability at the governance level to look at all the data that came in. And further down, we also track the users, where there is a list of users that the system is being used by, right, for retrievals, and we can get to see what kind of sensitive data that these different users are accessing, and also how many retrievals they are making across different topics that you can see that's currently that they are executing. And the system can also flag anomalous use. Now, let's look at how this data actually got configured into the system in general, how Proxima is configured by, in this case, Bob, who has access to as an admin privilege. So here I'm going to jump into the configuration section. And with connectors, as you see, we have configured 5 different connectors, and each of them are refreshing at a regular interval. And we have a rich set of connector library that you can configure. And as you can see, there are many things related to documentation, messaging, customer support apps, and project management. And this list is growing, and we can also add custom connectors. The next thing that you would do as an administrator is to configure your identity system. In this case, you would configure to your IDP, and you can choose what you want to configure either through Google or Okta or Azure, that whatever your enterprise supports. The next thing that you would do typically is to configure the LLM. Again, the choice is yours, where you can choose to configure the LLM of your choice. You can set up OpenAI directly, or if you are an enterprise Azure enterprise shop, you can use the Azure OpenAI through your account, or if you're an AWS ecosystem, you can use Azure AWS Bedrock. Here we have configured with OpenAI through an API key, and there is also a capability to connect to your own custom LLM provider. Perhaps you have a fine-tuned LLM, we can connect to that as well. Let's drill down and see the data governance dashboard one more time. As you can see, we can look at a specific document that came in through the system in a lot more detail. Here, we have ingested many documents specifically related to this entity called Acme Corp Bank. Here, we can drill down on specific aspects, where you can see which groups are authorized to access and what kind of sensitive labels that got seen through the system. So here, we get the full view of all the content that are flagged from a label point of view, and also the group information. We can also look at a bit more detail on specifically what content came in and with findings. So in this case, the SharePoint connector had different topics and entities that got found by our classifier. In this case, you get to see the specific snippet that is marked, say in this case, financial information. And keep in mind, our data loaders are, as you can see, are identity aware. They bring in not just the content of these data sources, it will also bring the permissions, right? Who is allowed to access. And that information is key as we look further through the demo of accessing this data corpus by different employees in your enterprise. Now let's look at some prompts as different users and see how this identity governance and policy guardrails comes through in Proxima, again powered by Peblo. So here I'm, as you saw, logged in as Bob. I'm going to try some prompts that access confidential financial documents. In this case, the prompt is about company growth metrics and strategy, which is typically allowed only for IA-powered users. In this case, you get a successful response from these documents, which again, from this tool, you can click and actually directly access those documents where this response is gathered. And our system also, given the financial information, the labels that we have placed on these documents, you would also get this additional warning. As you copy this response out, you need to handle with care, similar to how you would actually handle a financial document. Now let's switch to Alice. In this case, the system would log out of Bob and log back in as Alice into the system. Now we are logged back into the system as Alice, and of course Alice doesn't have access to admin tab. And in this case, let's try the prompt again, the one that we tried earlier, again accessing growth metrics and strategy. And these documents are not available for Alice. The groups that these documents that came are only available for Bob and not for Alice. And this is something the platform enforces. However, Alice can continue to use the product for other things that she has access to. For example, if she wants to know about the PTO policy of the Acme Corp Bank, she can prompt anything that she has access to, and the system will continue to provide responses. In this case, as you would see, it can actually grab information from multiple data sources, say some from Confluence and others from SharePoint, and put together a proper comprehensive response. And there is also a case where sometimes the identity is always not clean in any given enterprise. This is something that we have known. Identities many times are over-provisioned. In this case, there is a scenario where Alice is inadvertently given access to a customer report where customer information is there, and she is given access to the document. And now if she asks, and even in the scenario, Peblo, using its policy guardrail that we will quickly see, can still continue to block. I'm just going to show you how policy kind of works. Again, we will drill down the actual policy in a minute. Here, I'm going to try this prompt. Hey, can I get the SSN of a particular customer with highest monthly income? In this case, the system denies, even though Alice has access to the document, but she is denied by the policy framework. We will try the same prompt for Bob. And Bob has access, just like Alice, Bob also has access to the same document with customer information, but the policy guardrails doesn't have any additional restriction. So Bob is able to kind of see the response. Now let's drill down, go back to the governance pages. We'll look at the policy, we'll look at the retrieval screen. Our governance team can kind of keep this system secure and within the guardrails of the company policy. Right? Let's look at first at the policy. Right here, we are looking at the topics and entities where there is a broad restriction for various safety-related topics. But in this case, specifically the group, there is a default policy that blocks all PAI, which is SSN is one of the PAI information, personal identifier. And in this case, there is an explicitly, the group that Bob belongs to is not blocked for PAI. In this case, it's just warning for Bob, right? So this is the policy where Bob is able to see, because Bob is allowed to see PAI information, even though there's a small warning for Bob to be careful. But the rest of the groups that across the board, even if a user has access to the document, they will still get blocked because of this safety guardrail enforced through this policy. And all this you can drill down. There are a lot more policy types. We'll come back. And just to see how this all plays over at the retrieval level, let's drill down the different prompts that we did as different users. In this case, let's jump into Bob. As you can see, just now, the policy, the SSN related thing where Bob is successfully answered with a response in this case, because Bob is allowed, has access to this document, and also as the policies that actually allows him to see. Broadly, you can drill down what Bob is capable of doing, right? What is Bob is allowed, what groups Bob belongs to, right? A detailed view of all that. In general, what Bob has accessed over the using this product, and what kind of data sources Bob is actually accessing. Right? And also, you can drill down what is the sort of the blast radius for Bob, right? What all he has access across different data sources, and what kind of sensitive data that Bob has access to. Again, to go into the Alice user, as you can see, the same prompt that we gave, and eventually the system gave a deny answer where it's unable because the policy guardrail blocked access. Let's look at a few other policy and other advanced features in the system. We can also recommend rules based on the system actually observes the different products, different groups, and different prompt behavior, and it can actually recommend some rules on which rules that the system would recommend for you to apply, both at the PII and label level and also at the data source level, where some groups can be restricted access because they don't need to have such access based on the recommendation that the system observes. We can also configure policies related to confidentiality tags, and this is something that we connect to different outside systems like Microsoft Purview, and where you can actually tie this system to different confidentiality level, and of course that can be also tied to specific groups within your enterprise. Further down, we have compliance tags. Again, these are HIPAA and GDPR for now. Again, we keep adding more compliance related things. Again, you can author some additional restrictions based on this for different user groups. Same with data sources. Again, you can restrict data sources for specific groups. Again, this goes on top of identity, where to give additional control for a governance team. Given AI can be fairly, you need additional control in the age of AI, and this is the platform to go after to get these additional controls. We also have an alpha feature around AI enforced policy, where you can just delegate this old policy enforcement to our system, and that's something that our system will take care for ease of AI policy authoring systems. Overall, you get a broad control of what your employee base should have access. That's the goal for Peblo, to give as much control as possible as a governance team. Beyond this, we also support different custom topics where you can bring your own topic. Right. This is again if your enterprise has specific topics beyond the one that we have available in the system, you can actually bring your own topic. And this is something you would do by giving a name and giving some samples about the topic. Of course, you need sufficient samples for the system to recognize it as a proper topic. Again, this workflow will walk you through that system, through that workflow in a step-by-step manner. And in general, you will be able to kind of write policies against this new topic.